The sun was beginning to set over the crowded restaurant parking lot, casting long orange reflections across rows of cars. The air buzzed with distant chatter, car engines humming, and the clinking of plates from the patio tables nearby. Families wandered out in groups, laughing and stretching as they made their way toward their vehicles. Lena walked ahead of her family, her boots clicking sharply against the asphalt. Her pink-streaked hair blew in the warm breeze, and her expression was the familiar mix of impatience and conviction she carried into nearly every conversation. She hated this restaurant, its old-fashioned decor, its nostalgic music, and the way her grandparents always insisted on going there. Behind her, her grandfather Arthur, tall, thin, with silver hair flattened by the wind, walked slowly but purposefully toward the car. He pressed the key fob, and the headlights blinked. Without hesitation, he stepped ahead and opened the passenger door for Lena. He smiled gently. "Here you go, sweetheart." That was it. A simple gesture, warm, automatic, kind. But Lena froze. She turned slowly toward him, disbelief flashing across her face before turning into a smirk. "Seriously, Grandpa?" she said, loud enough for several nearby families to glance over. "What is this, the 1950s? Arthur blinked. I was just being polite." "Polite?" Lena laughed sharply. "It's outdated. It's patriarchal. Women don't need men to open doors for them anymore." Arthur's hand faltered on the door handle. The smile faded from his lips. "I didn't mean—" "You never do," Lena cut in, rolling her eyes. "But it's still a sexist reflex, Grandpa. You realize that, right?" Her tone was loud, sharp, and so dismissive that conversations around the parking lot quieted. A mother paused mid-stride with her toddler. A couple entering their car exchanged uneasy looks. Arthur lowered his gaze, his hand slipping from the door. "I'm sorry, Lena. I didn't want to upset you." His voice was soft, brittle around the edges. Lena shook her head. "It's not about being upset. It's about responsibility. You can't keep reinforcing old gender norms like this." Arthur said nothing. He simply stepped back. Not angry, not defensive, just wounded, in a way so quiet most people wouldn't notice. But Marjorie noticed. Lena's grandmother, small but elegant with her silver hair pinned back, stepped closer with a calmness that contrasted the tension in the air. She rested a hand lightly on Arthur's arm before turning her clear, steady gaze toward Lena. "Lena," she said softly, "do you even know why he opens the door?" Lena scoffed. "Yeah, because he thinks women can't do it themselves." Marjorie shook her head slowly. "No, dear, that's not why." Lena crossed her arms tightly across her chest. "Then enlighten me." The wind shifted, rustling Marjorie's blouse. Her eyes darkened, not with anger, but with something Lena didn't recognize. "Sempre ton pronta para lutar," Marjorie murmured almost to herself. Then she lifted her chin. "If you have the courage to mock him, then have the courage to listen." Arthur swallowed hard, looking anywhere but at his granddaughter. Lena frowned but didn't step away. "Fine, I'm listening." Marjorie exhaled, a long, quiet breath full of sadness and memory. Then she said the words that made Lena's stomach drop before she even understood them. "Your grandfather hasn't opened that door for you because of tradition." She looked at Arthur with eyes full of unspoken history. "He opens it because of me." Lena blinked, confusion flickering across her face. "What does that even mean, Grandma? What does opening the car door for me have to do with you?" Marjorie stepped closer, her posture calm, but her voice edged with something deeper, something Lena couldn't immediately decipher. Arthur looked down, his hand still hovering near the door handle, as if frozen in a memory only he understood. Marjorie placed a gentle hand on his back before turning to Lena again. "Your grandfather doesn't open the door because he thinks women are weak. He doesn't do it because he wants to feel superior. He does it out of habit, a habit built through years of love." Lena crossed her arms tighter. Love isn't an excuse for enforcing outdated gender roles. A flicker of pain crossed Marjorie's eyes, but her voice stayed level. "Then listen before you judge. Lena opened her mouth to argue, but Marjorie raised a hand, not forceful, just firm enough to still the air between them. "Do you remember," Marjorie began softly, "when I was ill? Before you were born? When the doctors said I might not make it through the winter?" Lena shifted uncomfortably. She'd heard fragments, whispered conversations, old stories, but never details. "That was over 30 years ago," Lena said. "What does that have to do with—" "It has everything to do with this," Marjorie interrupted gently. Her voice wavered, not from anger, but from emotion held carefully in place. "I couldn't walk without pain. I couldn't lift things. I couldn't breathe some days." She paused. "And your grandfather, your gentle, stubborn, quiet grandfather, became my anchor." Arthur swallowed, his jaw tightening as if trying to keep emotion contained. "He opened every door," Marjorie continued. "Not because I couldn't touch it, but because I couldn't manage it. I was weak, tired, trembling, and your grandfather refused, absolutely refused, to let me struggle alone." Lena's arms loosened from their rigid fold. "He opened the car door," Marjorie said softly, "because it was the one gesture he could give me when everything else was slipping through his fingers. He couldn't take away the disease, he couldn't heal me, but he could make sure I didn't have to face even one more tiny hardship." Arthur blinked hard, looking away. "And when I got better," Marjorie continued, pride warming her voice, "he never stopped. That door became a symbol, Lena, not of patriarchy, not of gender roles, but of devotion." A hush fell over the parking lot. Even strangers, pretending not to look, felt the shift in the air. Lena's stomach tightened as she stared at her grandfather. This quiet man she had reduced to a stereotype only moments before. "You never told me that," Lena whispered. Arthur finally looked at her. His eyes were watery but soft. "You never asked." Lena felt the words hit hard. Marjorie stepped closer to her granddaughter. "He kept doing it for me. And now, he does it for all the women in our family. Not because he thinks you're weak, but because he remembers what it was like to almost lose me." Lena's throat tightened. "But I know what you thought," Marjorie said gently. "You thought he was putting you beneath him, when in truth, Lena—" She reached out and touched her granddaughter's cheek. "He puts you ahead of him because he loves you. Because he learned long ago that life is too fragile not to treat the people you love gently." Lena's breath shook as the weight of her mistake settled around her. Arthur's voice came out barely above a whisper. "I never wanted you to feel insulted, sweetheart. I just wanted you to feel cared for." The setting sun cast a warm glow over his face, a face full of sincerity, not dominance, full of memory, full of love, full of wounds Lena had never seen before. Her chest tightened painfully. The anger that had burned so fiercely minutes ago now felt hollow, childish even. She looked at Arthur, really looked at him, and felt something inside her begin to crack. Not break. Crack. The first fracture in the armor she'd built, armor that had protected her beliefs but wounded the people who loved her. "Grandpa," she whispered, her voice suddenly small. "I didn't know." Arthur just nodded, his eyes glistening. "I know you didn't." Marjorie stepped back, giving Lena space to feel the truth she had been blind to. And for the first time since the argument began, Lena didn't have a retort or a theory or a counter-argument. Only silence. A silence that hurt. A silence that healed. A silence that opened something she never realized had been closed. Because now, she wasn't seeing tradition. She was seeing a man who carried decades of love in a gesture she had mocked without understanding. And she wasn't sure yet what to say, but she knew. She would never see that open car door the same way again. The wind shifted gently through the parking lot, carrying the faint scent of grilled food and warm pavement. Lena stood there, motionless, staring at her grandfather as if seeing him for the very first time. The people nearby had returned to their own conversations, but the emotional echo of Marjorie's words seemed to linger in the air around them. Arthur took a small step back, unsure, his shoulders slightly hunched, the posture of someone who wasn't used to being the center of attention, especially not like this. His hand still rested on the edge of the car door, suspended between past and present. Lena swallowed hard. "Grandpa, The words died on her tongue. Her throat felt tight, her heart beating with a strange mix of shame and realization. She had always been so certain, always ready to dissect every gesture through the lens of activism, theory, and resistance. But right now, her certainty felt flimsy, shallow, fragile. Marjorie stepped closer and spoke with a gentleness that wrapped around all three of them. "Sometimes, Lena," she said, "we confuse symbols with intentions." Lena frowned softly. "What do you mean?" Marjorie's eyes softened with understanding. "You saw your grandfather's gesture as a symbol of something oppressive, but intent can change everything." She placed a warm hand against her husband's back. His intent was never to diminish you. It was to honor a love he nearly lost. Arthur's lips twitched as if he wanted to speak but wasn't sure if he should. Lena let out a shaky breath. I've spent so long fighting things that look like inequality. I didn't think to wonder if maybe I was seeing it wrong." Marjorie nodded, not triumphantly, but compassionately. "Your fire is good. Your voice is strong, but strength without tenderness." She paused. "It can burn people you care about." The words hit Lena harder than she expected. She blinked rapidly. "I wasn't trying to burn him." "I know," Marjorie whispered. "But sometimes our intentions get buried beneath our reactions." Arthur finally found his voice. "Lena, I don't want you to stop fighting for what you believe in. I admire that fire in you." "Truly, He hesitated, swallowing thickly. "I never wanted to become the battlefield." Lena felt her heart twist painfully. She looked at him, really looked, and saw not a relic of old beliefs, not a representative of a generation she had spent years critiquing, but a man who had loved deeply, lost nearly everything, and somehow found ways to carry that love forward in small, stubborn rituals she had mocked. Her voice cracked. "Grandpa, I didn't know. I didn't understand." Arthur gave a hesitant, gentle smile. "You weren't supposed to know, but I hoped. Maybe one day, you'd understand." Lena's eyes stung with tears. She tried to blink away. "I didn't mean to hurt you." "I know," Arthur said simply. "I know, sweetheart." Marjorie stepped back, giving them space, her expression full of quiet strength. Lena took a slow step toward her grandfather. "Can I ask you something?" Arthur nodded. "Anything." "When you open the door," she whispered, "do you think of her? Of those years?" Arthur's voice was soft but unwavering. "Every single time." Lena pressed a hand to her mouth, overwhelmed. She couldn't stop the tears this time. They slipped past her lashes silently. Arthur reached out slowly, cautiously, as if he feared crossing a boundary. "Lena, it's okay." "No," she whispered, shaking her head. "It's not. I made fun of you. Her breath trembled. "I called your love sexist." Arthur's gentle, weathered hand brushed a tear from her cheek. "Love doesn't break that easily." Lena's shoulders shook, the weight of her misunderstanding crashing down all at once. Marjorie stepped forward again and wrapped an arm around her granddaughter's shoulders. "What you fight for is important, dear. But never forget to see the person behind the gesture." Lena closed her eyes as the truth washed over her. She had spent so much energy trying to correct the world around her that she forgot the world was made of people with stories, wounds, and memories she had never cared to ask about. A painful, humbling understanding settled into her chest. Her fire had meaning, but so did their tenderness. And maybe real strength, the kind she admired, wasn't about choosing one over the other, but learning when each one mattered. When Lena opened her eyes again, she found Arthur watching her with hope, worry, and a tenderness she didn't know how to receive. Not yet, but for the first time, she wanted to. The orange glow of the sunset deepened, casting long shadows across the parking lot. The rumble of distant traffic and the soft clatter of dishes from the restaurant patio created a muffled backdrop to the fragile silence that now hung between them. Lena wiped her cheek with the back of her hand, embarrassed by the tears, but unable to stop them. She wasn't used to breaking. She was used to pushing back, standing tall, being loud when she felt she needed to be. But right now, standing between her grandparents, the world felt painfully quiet. Arthur let the car door shut with a soft click, gently, as though even the sound might disturb the moment. He took a small step toward her, moving carefully, as if approaching a skittish bird. "Lena," Arthur said softly, "I never wanted to make you feel small." His voice was so raw with sincerity it lodged itself deep in her chest. "You didn't," she whispered. "I did that myself, by assuming the worst." Marjorie nodded approvingly, the faintest curve of a smile warming her face. "Awareness is the first step toward wisdom." Lena let out a shaky laugh. "I feel less wise and more horrible." "Not horrible," Marjorie corrected, squeezing her arm. "Human, imperfect, and willing to listen. That already puts you ahead of most people." Lena's breath wavered. "I shouldn't have mocked him." "No," Marjorie said gently, "but you can grow from it." Arthur's voice trembled. "I wasn't upset because of what you said, sweetheart. I was upset because it made me think I failed you somehow, that everything I tried to do with kindness was being misread as control." Lena pressed a hand to her mouth again, trying to keep a sob from slipping out. "You didn't fail me. I failed you." Arthur shook his head immediately. "No. You're passionate, strong. That's not failure. It's just, sometimes your fire flares up before your heart has time to speak." Marjorie chuckled softly. "She gets that from you, Arthur." He blinked, surprised. "Me? Oh, yes." Marjorie smiled warmly. "You think I married a quiet man? Never. You were fire too. Loud, impulsive, stubborn. You just learned to use your fire differently." Arthur blushed slightly, scratching the back of his neck. Lena's expression softened, curiosity flickering in her eyes. "Grandpa, were you really like that?" He nodded, sheepish. "Hot-headed as they come. I once argued with a police officer because I thought the parking sign was confusing." Marjorie laughed, really laughed, and it loosened the tightness in Lena's chest. "But then," Arthur continued, voice softening, "your grandmother taught me that sometimes gentleness wins more battles than shouting ever could." Lena listened, captivated. "I learned to slow down," Arthur said, "to listen, to let compassion speak first. That's why—" He hesitated. "That's why I started opening the door for her. It was my way of saying, I'm here. I see you. I want to make your life easier, even in the smallest ways." Lena's eyes welled again. "And I turned that into something ugly." Arthur stepped closer and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "No, sweetheart. You just didn't know the story behind it." "But I should have asked," Lena whispered, instead of assuming. "That's your lesson," Marjorie said kindly. "Not your shame." Lena looked down, her voice breaking. "I've been fighting everything because I thought if I didn't, I'd be powerless or invisible." Arthur's brow knitted with concern. "Oh, honey, you don't need to fight us. We're not the world you're trying to change." Those words broke something open inside Lena. She looked up slowly, tears trailing freely down her cheeks now. I know that. Now I do." Arthur gave her shoulder a reassuring squeeze. "You don't have to choose between your beliefs and your family. You can hold both." Lena let out a trembling breath. "Then, I want to learn how." Marjorie smiled proudly. "You just did." A soft breeze swept through the parking lot, carrying the last warmth of the fading sun. Lena felt strangely grounded, still emotional, still shaken, but grounded in a way she hadn't felt in years. She took a step toward Arthur, her voice barely above a whisper. "Grandpa, can we start over? Not as feminist and traditionalist, But just as Lena and Arthur? Arthur's eyes glistened. I would love nothing more. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, Lena realized something she had never allowed herself to consider. Her fire didn't have to disappear. Her compassion didn't have to shrink. They could coexist. She just needed to let them. The parking lot lights blinked on one by one, casting soft halos across the asphalt. The warm glow painted everything in gentle amber, making the moment feel strangely sacred, as if the world had paused just long enough to let them breathe. Lena took a shaky breath and stepped even closer to Arthur, her voice softer than he had ever heard from her. Grandpa, when you said you always think of Grandma when you open a door, what exactly do you see in your mind? Arthur's eyes flickered with emotion, a tenderness rising to the surface as if a hidden drawer had been opened. He took a seat on the edge of the car's passenger seat, the door still half open beside him. Sit with me, sweetheart, he said. Lena hesitated, then slowly lowered herself onto the seat's edge beside him. Marjorie leaned back against the car behind them, watching with an expression equal parts sadness and pride, like someone witnessing an overdue reunion finally unfolding. Arthur looked out across the lot, as if searching the horizon for memories only he could see. I think about her hands, he said softly. They would tremble sometimes, especially on the bad days. His voice wavered, and every time we reached the car, she'd try to open the door herself. She hated feeling weak. Marjorie nodded. I was stubborn. Arthur smiled gently. You were strong, even when you weren't. Lena listened, her chest tightening. Arthur continued. Her fingers would slip on the handle. Sometimes she'd get frustrated and cry. So one day I told her, let me do this for you. Just this. His voice cracked slightly, the memory resurfacing with vivid weight. And she let me, he whispered. For the first time, she let me carry the smallest piece of her burden. Lena swallowed, unable to blink away the tears forming. Arthur looked down at his hands, hands that had weathered decades of love, hardship, and devotion. When she got stronger again, I kept opening the door. Not because she needed me to, but because it reminded me we made it through something we almost didn't. Marjorie placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. Arthur's voice softened to a tremor. It became a promise that I would always be there before the hard part began. Lena's breath escaped in a shaky whisper. Grandpa. He turned to her. So when I opened the door for you today, sweetheart, it wasn't because I thought you were weak. It was because, in my heart, that gesture is love. Lena covered her mouth as a sob escaped. Arthur's brow creased with worry. I'm sorry if that hurt you. I would never. It didn't hurt me, Lena whispered, tears spilling freely. It hurts because I didn't know, and I accused you of something you never meant. Arthur shook his head, brushing a tear from her cheek with a trembling thumb. You didn't know, and that's okay. You're young. You're learning. I'm proud of you for standing for what you believe in. His voice faltered. I don't ever want to be someone you think you have to fight. Lena leaned forward and wrapped her arms around him, the first time she'd hugged him in years. Arthur startled slightly, then melted into the embrace, pressing his cheek against her temple. His hands shook as he held her, but not from age this time, from relief, from forgiveness, from love that finally had a place to land. Marjorie wiped a tear discreetly, her voice soft. She may have your fire, Arthur, but she has your heart too. Lena pulled back slowly, wiping her eyes. I don't want to fight my family anymore. I want to understand. She turned to her grandmother. And I want to learn your stories, all of them. Marjorie smiled warmly. Then we'll teach you. Lena looked down at the car door, still open beside her. Grandpa, would you? She hesitated, choking up. Would you show me how you opened the door for her? What it meant to you? Arthur swallowed hard, touched beyond words. Of course. He stood, walked around the car slowly and closed the door gently, not to shut Lena out, but to begin again. Then, with the same careful, deliberate movement he had used for decades, He opened it once more. The gesture was simple, quiet, but now Lena saw it clearly. It wasn't tradition. It wasn't patriarchy. It wasn't a power play. It was devotion carved into muscle memory, a ritual born in pain and kept alive in love. Lena covered her heart with her palm, tears streaming as she whispered, "It's beautiful." Arthur's eyes glistened. It always was. And in that twilight parking lot, surrounded by cars and fading sunlight, Lena finally understood. Some gestures don't oppress. Some gestures protect. Some gestures remember. And some gestures are love disguised as habit. The parking lot had emptied out now, leaving only a few scattered cars and the hum of distant traffic. The sky deepened into a dusky purple, and a soft evening breeze swept through, carrying the scent of warm asphalt and the faint sweetness of blooming jasmine. Everything felt quieter, as if the world were giving them space. Lena stood beside the open passenger door, her hand still pressed over her heart. She exhaled shakily, trying to steady the tidal wave of emotion that kept rising in her chest. Arthur closed the door gently and stepped toward her, the gravel crunching under his shoes. His shoulders were relaxed now, but his eyes still held that fragile softness, the kind that only appears when someone has been unexpectedly wounded by someone they love. "Grandpa," Lena whispered, wiping her cheeks again. "All this time, I thought you were just reenacting some outdated tradition. I never imagined there was a whole history behind that door." Arthur gave a small, sad smile. "Most of the time, sweetheart, people don't ask. They just see the gesture, not the story." Lena's voice cracked. "I saw the wrong story." He shook his head gently. "You saw the only one you knew." Marjorie stepped closer, her silver hair glowing faintly under the parking lot lights. "We all interpret the world through our own battles," she said softly. "Yours come from a place of strength, but his came from a place of survival." Lena looked down at her hands, steady now but trembling on the inside. "I've spent so much of my life preparing to fight everything I thought was unfair, but today I fought something I never should have." Arthur rested a hand on her arm, warm, patient, reassuring. "And now you're here listening. That matters more to me than anything else you could say." The sincerity in his voice made Lena's throat tighten painfully. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't just misunderstand your gesture. I attacked it. I attacked you." Arthur blinked, moisture gathering in his eyes. "It's all right." "No," Lena said, shaking her head. "It's not. Because now I know what that gesture meant, and I turned something sacred into something ugly." Marjorie stepped in gently, placing her hand on Lena's back. "Sweetheart, you have a powerful voice, but even powerful voices need soft moments." She glanced lovingly at her husband. "Your grandfather learned that long ago." Arthur chuckled softly. "Mostly from her." Lena managed a tiny smile. It felt strange, fragile, but real. "Can you—" She hesitated, her voice catching. "Can you tell me more about those years? When Grandma was sick?" Arthur exchanged a look with Marjorie, tender, painful, full of shared memories. "If you want to hear it," he said quietly, "we'll tell you." "I want to," Lena said firmly. "I need to." Arthur nodded and leaned back against the car, the dim light casting shadows that made him look both older and gentler than she'd ever seen him. "It started with her lungs," he began. "They weakened slowly. Some days she couldn't catch her breath. Some days she couldn't get out of bed." Marjorie rubbed his arm, grounding him. "He never left my side, not even once." "I was scared," Arthur admitted, "terrified. Every time she walked down the front steps, I'd watch her legs shake. I'd hover behind her, ready to catch her if she fell." Lena imagined it, the fear, the helplessness, the quiet devotion carved into everyday routines. "I'd walk her to the car," Arthur continued, "and she'd reach for the door handle, and her hand would slip. Every time. I'd see the frustration on her face, the pain she tried to hide." Marjorie nodded slowly. "I hated feeling weak." Arthur's voice softened. So I told her she never needed to open that door again, that I'd do it for her, always. And he did, Marjorie whispered. Every day. A lump grew in Lena's throat. The air felt thick with memory. When she recovered, Arthur said, staring at the car door with distant eyes, I couldn't stop, because every time I opened it, it reminded me she was still here, still breathing, still walking beside me. Lena pressed her fist against her chest to steady herself, and I mocked that, without knowing. Arthur reached out again, touching her cheek with a care that broke her all over again. You didn't know. Now you do. A tear slid down Lena's cheek and she didn't bother wiping it away. Grandpa, she whispered, will you teach me? Teach me what gestures like that really mean? Not from books or theories, but from your heart. Arthur's face softened completely. I would love nothing more. Lena's voice trembled. And can you forgive me? Arthur didn't hesitate. He pulled her into a gentle, tight embrace, the kind that felt like coming home and starting over at the same time. My darling, he whispered against her hair. There was never anything to forgive. Lena closed her eyes, letting herself sink into the warmth of the moment. The quiet, unconditional love she had pushed away without realizing she was hurting the person who gave it freely. When they pulled apart, Marjorie stepped closer, tucking a loose strand of hair behind Lena's ear. You're learning something many people never learn, dear. Lena sniffed. What's that? That love doesn't make you small, Marjorie said gently. It makes you deeper. And for the first time in her life, Lena believed it. The last streaks of sunlight faded completely, leaving the parking lot bathed in the soft glow of overhead lamps. The restaurant had quieted with only a few late diners lingering behind. The world felt still, like the kind of moment that wasn't meant to be rushed. Lena stood between her grandparents, feeling strangely weightless and heavy all at once. She had come into this evening ready for battle, ready to pounce on anything that resembled an old tradition. But now, the battlefield she had created inside herself was shifting. Arthur leaned gently against the side of the car, his breathing slow and steady. Marjorie tucked her hand into the crook of his arm, the familiarity of the gesture speaking volumes. They had weathered storms together, storms Lena had never taken the time to understand. Lena watched them for a long moment before speaking. When you told me everything, she began quietly. It felt like something cracked open, something I didn't even know was closed. Arthur tilted his head. What do you mean, sweetheart? Lena hesitated, searching for the right words. Not politicized ones, not debate-ready ones, but real ones. I've spent so much time fighting the world, she said slowly. So much time trying to fix things, to call them out, to name every problem before someone else does. She shook her head gently. I thought that made me strong, and maybe it does. But I think I forgot that strength isn't just about resisting. Marjorie's expression softened. Strength is also about receiving. Lena nodded, tears welling again, but softer this time. Yeah, receiving, listening, seeing people instead of categories. Arthur shifted, his brows knitting with concern. Lena, we never wanted you to abandon your beliefs or your fire. I know, she whispered. And I'm not abandoning anything. I want to understand things before I judge them. I want to know the person behind the gesture. Arthur smiled, slow and warm. That's all anyone can hope for. Lena stepped closer, looking at both of them. I didn't see you today. I saw ideas, stereotypes, things I read online. I painted you into something you're not. Arthur shook his head gently. You were protecting what you care about. But I hurt someone I care about, Lena said softly. Marjorie reached for her hand. Then you apologize, you learn, and you love better tomorrow. Lena's breath trembled. I want to. Arthur took her other hand, completing the small circle they made together in the quiet lot. Then you already are, For a long moment, the three of them simply stood there, hands intertwined, the weight of the evening settling into something healing instead of painful. Then Marjorie broke the silence with a soft chuckle. "You know, you get your passion from your grandfather." Arthur raised a brow. "Me? I'm the calm one." Marjorie snorted. "You're calm now. But 50 years ago? Firecracker. You'd argue with stop signs if you thought they were placed wrong." Lena let out a small laugh, the kind that comes after too many tears. "Really?" "Oh, yes," Marjorie said dramatically. "Your grandfather once got into an argument with a security guard because he thought the mall map was sexist." Arthur gasped. "That is not what happened." Marjorie grinned. "You said the map was confusing and should have been designed with more empathy because men ignore the details." Lena covered her mouth, laughing through her tears. "Grandpa," Arthur blushed, waving his hand dismissively. "I was making a point about typography." Marjorie squeezed him affectionately. "Sure you were." The tension melted, replaced by a soft warmth that wrapped around them like a blanket. For the first time all night, Lena felt fully safe. Safe to laugh, safe to cry, safe to be flawed, safe to grow. She looked at them, eyes shimmering. "You two, you've been through so much together." Marjorie nodded with a proud tilt of her chin. "Love isn't just sweetness, it's endurance." Arthur squeezed her hand. "And patience." "And listening," Marjorie added. "And forgiveness," Arthur whispered, looking at Lena. Her eyes filled again, but this time she didn't fight it. "I want that," she said quietly. "Someday. Not just the love, but the endurance, the gentleness, the patience." Marjorie smiled knowingly. "Then learn from us, not to copy us." She touched Lena's cheek, but to understand the heart behind the gesture. Lena nodded, a soft determination settling inside her chest. Gentler than her usual fire, but warmer, deeper, steadier. "Will you teach me?" she asked. Both grandparents squeezed her hands. "We already are," Marjorie said. "And we always will," Arthur whispered. In that moment, under the warm glow of the parking lot lights, Lena realized something she had never felt so clearly. Changing the world was important, but understanding the people in her own world was just as powerful. The air had cooled, the night settling in fully now. The restaurant doors opened and closed behind distant patrons, but their voices felt far away, muted beneath the soft hum of streetlights overhead. Lena, standing between her grandparents, felt as though time had slowed to let her breathe in everything she had missed for years. Arthur let out a slow exhale, as if releasing the tension he'd been holding since the moment Lena mocked him. He straightened his posture gently, his face lined with age but glowing with a renewed sense of peace. Marjorie brushed her hand along Lena's arm, guiding her closer to the car. "Come," she said softly. "Let's sit." They moved to the side of the car where the light was warmest. Lena leaned against the cool metal, drawing in a slow breath, grounding herself. For the first time in a long while, she wasn't preparing for a debate. She wasn't rehearsing arguments in her mind. She wasn't defending herself from anything. She was simply present. Arthur cleared his throat softly. "Can I tell you something I've never said out loud?" he asked, his voice tentative. Lena nodded immediately. "Please." He rested both hands on the roof of the car, his gaze dropping to the ground as if searching for courage in the cracks of the asphalt. "When your grandmother was sick, I was terrified. Every single day, terrified." Marjorie placed a gentle hand on his back. "Arthur." "No," he whispered, taking her hand. "She should hear this." Lena's chest tightened. Arthur continued, voice barely above a murmur. "Every little thing I could do. Opening the door, carrying her bag, tying her shoes. It wasn't because she couldn't do it." He wiped the corner of his eye. "It was because I needed to do something, anything. I needed to feel like I could help. Like I wasn't just watching the woman I love slip away." Lena's breath caught. Arthur shook his head. "And every time she got a little stronger, I held on to those gestures even tighter. They were my anchor, my way of thanking the universe for giving me one more day with her. Marjorie's eyes shimmered with emotion as she squeezed his hand. You saved me in ways medicine never could. Lena swallowed hard, her voice trembling when she spoke. Grandpa, I never knew you felt all that. Arthur lifted his gaze to her. You wouldn't. I never talked about it. But when you mocked me today, it wasn't just the gesture. His voice softened. It felt like you mocked the memory of my fear, my gratitude, my relief. Lena flinched, tears forming again. I wasn't trying to hurt you. I know, he said gently. But pain doesn't care about intention. It just arrives. That single sentence hit Lena like a punch, not in a punishing way, but in a deeply clarifying one. Marjorie stepped forward, brushing a tear from Lena's cheek. You fight the world because you don't want anyone to hurt you. But sometimes, sweetheart, your fists hit the wrong people. Lena pressed a hand to her chest, her voice cracking. I don't want to be that person. Then you won't be, Arthur said firmly. Because you're here, listening, trying. Lena blinked hard. But I feel so guilty. Good, Marjorie said softly. Because guilt is the doorway to change, if you walk through it. Lena nodded slowly, absorbing the words. Arthur reached for her hand, a small, warm gesture. You can keep your fire, Lena. Keep your convictions. Keep fighting for what you believe in. He squeezed her hand gently. But don't let the fight blind you. A soft silence followed, not heavy, but thoughtful. Lena looked at her grandparents, seeing them in a new light. Their wrinkles weren't signs of outdated thinking. They were stories, battles, memories, evidence of a life lived with tenderness and endurance. Grandpa, she whispered, can you tell me what it felt like when Grandma first got better? Arthur's face softened instantly, shifting into an expression Lena had never seen from him, pure, radiant gratitude. It felt like the sun came back, he said. After months of thinking I'd never see warmth again. Marjorie leaned her head on his shoulder, and the simplicity of the gesture made Lena's heart ache. I want that, Lena whispered. I want love that looks like that. Not controlled, not fragile, but steady. Arthur nodded. Then remember this night. Remember what the gesture meant. Lena drew a shaky breath. I will. And remember, Marjorie added, it's okay to learn that sometimes the things you thought were symbols of oppression are actually symbols of survival. Lena pressed her lips together, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. She wasn't breaking anymore. She was opening, softly, painfully, beautifully opening. And for the first time all night, she felt something she hadn't expected. She felt grateful the door had been opened, in every sense. A calm settled between them. A deep, reflective quiet that felt more healing than anything Lena had felt in years. The night air wrapped around them gently, carrying a hint of coolness mixed with the last traces of warmth from the day. Streetlights cast long, golden beams that stretched across the pavement, like guiding lines toward something new. Arthur shifted slightly, leaning more comfortably against the car. He rubbed his palms together, not from cold, but from the nervous energy that still lingered in his bones. Lena stepped closer, her voice low but steady. Grandpa, I need to ask you something, and I need the truth. Arthur raised a brow, concerned, yet open. Of course. She took a breath. When I reacted earlier, when I laughed and mocked you, did it remind you of anything? Of those difficult years? Arthur paused. A long, heavy pause. Behind him, Marjorie watched carefully, her hand resting protectively on his arm. Finally, Arthur nodded, slowly, reluctantly, with a vulnerability so raw that Lena felt as though she could hear his heartbeat. Yes, he whispered. It did. Lena's heart sank. I'm so sorry. He lifted a hand to gently stop her flood of regret. It's okay. Truly. He looked down. But for a moment, just for a moment, it felt like I was right back there, helpless, watching someone I love struggle and being unable to soothe them. Lena covered her mouth, a quiet gasp escaping. She hadn't just misunderstood him. She had accidentally reopened an old wound she never even knew existed. Marjorie stepped in softly. Your grandfather spent years waiting for signs that I was getting worse again. Even after I recovered, he carried that fear quietly. Most men his age would have refused to speak about their emotions. But Arthur... She squeezed his arm. Arthur feels deeply. He glanced at Lena with shy honesty, more deeply than I let on. Lena wiped her tears again, but they kept forming. I should have asked. I should have learned your story before assuming I understood it. Arthur gave a tiny chuckle, fragile but affectionate. You think I understood everything when I was your age? I argued with the world the way you do. But I learned that before you change someone's mind, you have to understand their heart. Lena absorbed that, her gaze falling to the pavement. I don't think I've been doing that. No, Marjorie replied gently. You've been fighting shadows. Lena looked up, surprised. Shadows? Marjorie nodded. Theoretical enemies. Concepts. Not people, not faces, not stories. Arthur added, You looked at me and saw a symbol you wanted to dismantle, but I'm just a man who loves his wife and his granddaughter. Lena broke again at that, silently this time. Her tears flowed without force, without resistance. This wasn't the heavy, burning grief of guilt. It was the softer, cleansing grief of finally understanding. She stepped forward and took Arthur's hand, carefully, reverently, as if it were something precious. Grandpa, she whispered, I don't want to fight shadows anymore. Arthur squeezed her hand. Then look for the light behind them. Lena nodded, her tears falling freely. Marjorie wiped at her own cheek, pretending it wasn't a tear. You know, she said lightly, your grandfather used to say that opening the car door wasn't chivalry, it was strategy. Lena blinked, confused. Arthur let out a soft laugh. She's right. I used to joke that if I opened the door for her, she'd be too impressed to remember I forgot to take out the trash. Marjorie shot him a playful glare. Impressed? Please, I saw right through you. Exactly, he grinned. And you married me anyway. The three of them laughed, genuinely, warmly, a sound that drifted into the night air, soft and full of healing. Lena took a slow breath, grounding herself. Can I ask something else? Arthur nodded. Anything. When you opened the door tonight, Lena said carefully, what were you thinking? Right before I reacted. Arthur looked at her with gentle eyes. I was thinking, how beautiful it is that even after everything, I still get to be here. That I get to open a door for my granddaughter, a door I wasn't sure I'd live long enough to open. Lena's lips parted, her breath catching. The parking lot seemed to exhale with her. And when you laughed at me, Arthur admitted softly, I thought maybe you didn't need me, that maybe the world had moved on past anything I had left to give. Lena stepped closer, her face full of heartbreak. I do need you. I need your stories, your love, your experiences. I need you. Arthur's eyes glistened. He brushed her cheek again, his thumb warm and trembling. Then let tonight be a new beginning. Lena nodded, pressing his hand to her face. Yes, a beginning. Marjorie smiled, lifting her chin proudly. Look at us, 3 generations standing in a parking lot, healing what the world made heavy. Lena let out a breathless laugh. It feels like more than healing. It feels like remembering something I didn't know I'd forgotten. And what's that? Arthur asked. That love, Lena whispered, isn't something to question first. It's something to understand first. Marjorie wiped her eye again, this time without pretending. Arthur squeezed Lena's hand one last time before saying, and that, sweetheart, is the heart of everything. The night didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt full, alive, honest, and Lena realized she wasn't just learning their story. She was finally learning her own. The parking lot had grown quiet, the night settling into a peaceful stillness. A cool breeze drifted through, brushing against Lena's cheeks, cooling the last traces of her tears. The lights above hummed softly, casting golden halos that made the moment feel almost sacred. Arthur stood facing her, his posture relaxed now, free from the earlier tension. Marjorie stayed close, her presence a gentle anchor, a reminder that love, even when bruised, could steady itself again. Lena breathed deeply, letting the cool air fill her lungs as she gathered the courage to speak her heart, without defenses, without ideology, without fear. "Grandpa," she began, voice trembling but clear, "when I reacted earlier, I wasn't really reacting to you. Not fully. I think I was reacting to everything I've been carrying." Arthur tilted his head. "Carrying?" She nodded. "Anger, pressure, expectations. This feeling that if I'm not constantly watching for injustice, I'll let the world slip backward." She swallowed hard. "But I forgot that not every moment is a battlefield, and not every gesture is an attack." Marjorie stepped closer, her face soft and warm. "And not everyone you love is an enemy." Lena nodded, her eyes glistening. "I see that now." Arthur took a step forward, reaching for her hand with gentle hesitancy. When she didn't pull away, he held it with careful warmth. "My girl," he said softly, "the world needs people who pay attention, who care, who fight. But the world also needs people who know when to put the sword down." Lena let out a shaky exhale. "I think I forgot how." "That's why we're here," Marjorie said, her voice firm with love. "Family teaches you when to fight and when to rest." Lena glanced between them, her throat tightening again. But this time it wasn't from pain. It was from something deeper, warmer, humbler. "I don't want to hurt you too," she whispered. "I don't want to be so focused on fixing the world that I break the people who made mine." Arthur gently cupped her cheek. "Then don't. Just talk to us. Ask, learn, and let us learn from you too." Lena blinked, surprised. "Learn from me?" "Of course," Arthur said. "You teach us how the world is changing. We teach you why some things stayed the same. Together, we make sense of it." Marjorie smiled, her eyes twinkling. "That's how generations grow. Not against each other, but with each other." A silence fell. Warm, peaceful, full of understanding. Lena felt something inside her loosen, unwind, breathe. It was the first time in a long while that she felt safe being both passionate and vulnerable at the same time. She wiped her eyes again and stood straighter. "Grandpa, can I show you something?" Arthur raised an eyebrow. "Of course." Lena walked around to the passenger side of the car, her steps slow but purposeful. Arthur watched with curious eyes as she gently placed her hand on the door handle. Then, with the same deliberate care he had shown her grandmother for decades, Lena opened the car door. Slowly, softly, reverently. Arthur inhaled sharply, eyes widening with emotion he couldn't hide. Lena stepped aside and gestured quietly. "For you." Arthur looked overwhelmed, visibly, profoundly moved. His lips trembled as he whispered, "Sweetheart, you don't have to." "I know," she said gently, "and that's why it matters." Marjorie pressed a hand against her chest, tears glistening. "Oh, Lena." Arthur approached the open door, touching the frame as though it were something holy, something fragile, something filled with decades of meaning. "You have no idea," he said softly, "what this means to me." Lena's voice wavered. "I think I finally do." Arthur stepped forward and wrapped her in a tight, trembling embrace. Not the hesitant one from earlier, but a full, relieving, heart-deep hug that carried gratitude, forgiveness, and love all at once. Lena clung to him, letting her tears fall freely. "I'm sorry," she whispered into his shoulder. "For what I said, for what I assumed, for not seeing you." Arthur kissed the top of her head. "You see me now. That's all I ever needed." They stayed like that for a long moment, wrapped in warmth, wrapped in understanding, wrapped in a love that was bigger than mistakes and stronger than misunderstandings. When they finally pulled apart, Marjorie joined them, embracing both Lena and Arthur at once. It felt like a circle being closed, or maybe opened, in ways Lena couldn't fully describe. The night breeze swept around them gently, as if sealing the moment with its own signature. Lena stepped back, wiping her eyes but smiling through the tears. "Grandpa, Grandma, thank you for telling me, for being patient, for loving me even when I make it hard." Marjorie cupped her cheek. "Love isn't easy, my dear, but it's worth every difficult moment." Arthur nodded. "And tonight, you reminded us that understanding can grow anywhere, even in a parking lot." Lena laughed softly, her heart full. "I guess some stories begin with conflict and end with clarity." Arthur squeezed her hand. "And this one ends with us walking forward together." Lena inhaled deeply, letting the night air fill her chest with something new, something steady, gentle and strong. Healing, humility, love, and a deeper understanding she would carry for the rest of her life. As they moved toward the car together, slowly, united, Lena realized something she would never forget. Some doors aren't opened because you're weak. Some doors are opened because someone once fought for their life, and love turned that fight into a ritual. And now, with every beat of her heart, Lena knew. She hadn't mocked a tradition. She had misunderstood a devotion. And tonight, she had learned the difference.